You are listening to Lovely Talks Heavy. Hello everybody, and welcome to the first episode of Lovely Talks Heavy. I am your host, Lovely, and on this podcast I will be discussing everything I enjoy with regard to heavy music. A large part of that will be heavy metal, since my online handle is LovelyMetalhead, but I will also be talking about other genres of music if it fits the bill of heavy music, or it might just be interesting for me to talk about. We shall see where this podcast takes us. So, I wanted to start out, before I get into what I will consider the real meat of this episode, by introducing myself, since this is episode 1. Now, like I mentioned, I am Lovely. That's my online handle. It's not me being sort of uppity about myself. I don't know. But that's my online handle. It has been for like nearly a decade, about as long as I have been a fan of heavy music. Holy shit. I've had some previous experience with broadcasting and being in front of a microphone. My first being that I had a Metalocalypse fan cast called Mystic Crackish. That was probably, I can guarantee that was a hot mess though. I was using my computer internal mic to record that thing, and I started that podcast just at the end of season 4 of Metalocalypse, so like for a few weeks I had a lot to talk about, but after that it just went downhill from there. I was literally grasping at straws and finding stuff to talk about, but I loved Metalocalypse and that's why I did it. I only stopped because the hosting site that I was using, for whatever reason, wasn't, it wouldn't allow me to upload episodes anymore because of data or what have you. I forgot what it was, but so I just stopped and I didn't continue on from there because at that point there wasn't anything else to talk about with regards to Metalocalypse until the Doomstar Requiem had come out, but I was thinking about other things. You know what? No, I wasn't even. I was still thinking about Metalocalypse. My hyperfixation on Metalocalypse has lasted a long time. But anyway, enough about that. If you're interested in finding that, by the way, I'm sure it's still floating somewhere on the internet. I might even go back and listen to it just to feel better about myself today. I don't know. But anyway, it's called Mystic Crackish if you wanted to find it. So anyway, I've also had experience with broadcasting with my university's radio club that I was a part of for a few years. I hosted a show on the school radio station. It was called Precious Metals with Lovely, and every weekend from 10 to midnight, I would talk about heavy metal news, I would play heavy metal music, and I would always have something to talk about with heavy metal news. There was one window of time that stretched very long in terms of weeks, I should say, where I was talking exclusively about, well, not exclusively, but largely about what people thought about Gene Simmons' acclaimed famous phrase, "Rock is dead." I did not run out of stuff to talk about with that one utterance of that one phrase for weeks. So thank you, Gene Simmons, for that, I guess. So that's my bit of experience of being in front of a microphone and broadcasting. Whether or not I do it very well is up to the audiences that listen to it. At the time of the Metalocalypse fancast, everybody else thought it was pretty good, but because they also enjoyed Metalocalypse, but that's neither here nor there. So, like I mentioned before, I've been a fan of heavy music for nearly a decade. It all started one fateful evening when I was scrolling through radio stations when I had recently gotten into just music in general and really taking an interest in it. And I heard a sliver of the song Pain by 3 Days Grace as I was passing past my local rock station. Thought it to be interesting, listened to it, and it was the deepest shit my 14-year-old mind had ever heard. My mind was blown. In the years following that, I've of course got into heavier stuff, like Avenged Sevenfold. That's heavy compared to 3 Days Grace, let's be real. like of course got into Metallica. I didn't find myself largely interested in Metallica at the time, but I did like Enter Sandman. See, that was my introduction into heavy music also seemed to overlap with I'm Too Edgy for Everything period in my life, which honestly I feel like every single one of us that has been a fan of heavy music has gone through a phase of being too edgy for whatever thing possible. So I thought I was too edgy for Metallica. Like, I liked Enter Sandman though, but but I've grown past that. My main sort of focuses, I should say, as far as interests in heavy music revolve around a visual aesthetic sort of imagination being utilized, performative aspects being utilized, like aside from just getting on stage and singing your songs and, you know, playing them well, which I do appreciate in a band. I also appreciate the next step up being taken by bands like Powerwolf, like Lordy, like I would say even Sabaton, like Ailstorm, Fintroll, that sort of thing. You know, I am a visual person, and if my visual senses are being stimulated along with my hearing senses, I can't for the life of me think of the word for that right now, but if that's being stimulated, I will more likely have a fun time. And I think that's why people appreciate those bands also. So I can honestly say also, in my near decade of being a heavy music fan, I can be honest and admit to myself when I say the words that my favorite bands or aesthetics or what have you tend to also be pop music with drop D guitars and death growls involved. Like, I can be real with myself, and I think a lot of people can be real with themselves too in that aspect. When a band uses a lot of melodies, make sure that their sound is pleasant to listen to, that it's a sort of clean, what do you call it? A clean sort of construction of music. When there's a story being told in the song, whether it's about, you know, fighting people in battle like Amon Amarth, or partying and getting drunk like Corpy Clanny, there's barely a difference between Corpy Clanny and Kesha in my mind, aside from the fact that maybe Corpy Clanny writes more of their own songs and speaks a lot more Finnish. But in that sense, I think there's not really much of a difference, because in both aspects, they're having fun. I could have a whole episode dedicated to this, and maybe I will at some point, but not right now, because there is one thing I did want to talk about in this episode, and that thing is a band that is near and dear to my heart, and they are named SROS Lords. This is a punk outfit from Detroit, Michigan, close to where I'm at, so I thought I, of course, would keep this episode close to home and really discuss this band. So, SROS Lords are a band who describe themselves as slimernetic punk. Now, if you're a fan of punk music or know somebody that is a fan of punk music, I recommend you get on the SROS Lords train like yesterday. And this is not just because these guys are close friends of mine, but because I truly enjoy the music as well. I thought it appropriate to bring these guys in on my first episode of Lovely Talks Heavy because in university I had interviewed them for a journalism project, for a feature project, and it was a wonderful experience. They were the nicest people ever about it, and really so excited about that. They had performed at a charity function that my radio club had hosted upon my recommendation and request. I reviewed their latest album on my blog just because I wanted to, and it was fantastic. So I just thought I would just keep, sort of gassing up these people and telling you guys, hey, you need to listen to SROS Lords. So why should you listen to SROS Lords other than the fact that apparently Lovely is friends with them and they apparently have good music? Well, I should focus on the music because those are the only two reasons why I would recommend somebody listen to them. But anyhow, so they describe themselves as slimernetic punk, which I feel like is really in tune with what true punk music is about. Not a lot of their songs exceed 3 minutes, if even 2.5 minutes. There's a raw energy about them, and there's a grittiness about them that is present in the production value and within the lyricism and the sound that they evoke in their music. It's all present. They use the term slimernetic because their vocalist / guitarist Morgan Blank has described themselves wanting to be sort of like a sewer funk band, of having dreams of blobs and slime, of when he was younger he would want to have been in a band that could call itself slimernetic. Even if you've never heard that term before, you would certainly guess as to what that could mean. And if you listen to SROS Lords, that is exactly what they evoke in their music. You've got songs like Sniper, which is one of my personal favorites by them at the moment, because it tells a story, a hilarious story, mind you, about a sniper getting a clean kill, but also needing to make sure he can use a van tonight from his mom. It's got a certain melody, and I think all SROS Lord songs have a certain melody present, and that's why I like them. They have a storytelling element that I enjoy, and they're fast-paced, which I do like a slow song every now and again, but I like a certain fast-moving energy in a song. So, your Sniper, Cleaner Love, I feel like it evokes the slimernetic sound that SROS Lords goes for. A song called Erica, which is present on their Forgasm vinyl EP and also their album called Rule, which was remastered, but it's still the same sort of song. It's just a different kind of sound, but still slimernetic. Another one of my personal favorites is Dragonflex, which brings a sort of image in my mind. They don't tell a specific story about people playing D&D, but that's the sort of idea I get in my mind when I listen to Dragonflex. Imagine, will you, okay, pretend for 5 seconds that I am now the DM of a D&D session, this impromptu D&D session. Let's go. So, you and your party enter an inn. It's a sort of typical scene at any sort of given inn. You have your music playing in the background, a bunch of different creatures and people of all different races, dwarves, humans, fighters, clerics, elves, all different kinds, wizards even. And off to the far side of the inn, you notice a arm wrestling contest happening between a burly fighter and a lithe elven wizard. The wizard thinks that he is able to defeat this burly human fighter, but to no luck. Not even magic can aid him in this time. Now, one of your party decides to challenge this burly human fighter to an arm wrestling match for all of his gold. So they do it. Nobody believes that this could be pulled off, but this person in your party has one thing at his aid, and that is the way of the Dragonflex. And that's exactly, it's probably the exact opposite of what SROS Lords are going for, but it's the kind of imagery I get from listening to the song. And I think that's what makes it particularly enjoyable, is that it invokes something in your mind that it's probably not even trying to communicate. So it's a fun song to listen to. So that's why I really recommend Dragonflex. And while we're on this train of recommending songs, the last one I want to give to you is Among the Hmong. It's just under 2 minutes, and it's one of my personal favorites also because it also tells a story, definitely gives a more clear story that it is trying to tell about a quest that this person is leading and meeting different characters along the way. It's melodic, but also just personal experience. SROS Lords played this song for me when I interviewed them for my feature project, and I'm just like, that was really cool of them. So, Among the Hmong, another personal favorite of mine by SROS Lords. So, you have your list of recommendations from me now. So, okay, just to recap, that is Sniper, that is Clean Love, that is Erica, Dragonflex, and also Among the Hmong. That is just but a tiny handful of their music, their discography, if you will, that you need to listen to right now if you consider yourself a fan of punk music. So, some more about SROS Lords. Since my meeting them, their lineup has changed a bit. Their previous keyboardist, Kate Ash, is no longer with them. Just life obligations get in the way of, being in a band. And so she decided to take her leave from SROS Lords, but may come back at any time. Who's to say? But their new synth player is Johnny Laser from another Detroit band, a noise rock band called The Human Eye. And SROS Lords is actually in the process of recording a new album, mixing a new album. And what's different is that this one is being completely mixed by the band themselves, to where they have full control of the sound that they want to present. I also wanted me to mention that there's going to be a few different things about this new album. A, Jamie Cherry's drumming is way tighter. B, there's going to be a lot more synth present in this album, so I cannot wait to hear it, mostly because I like SROS Lords and I like to see when bands do different things, so we'll see. In the near future, they're going to be aiming to reach a wider audience by playing more shows. So if you already enjoy SROS Lords content, if you will, just go out and spread the word, the gospel of the slimernetic sewer funk sound. And if you are not yet a fan of SROS Lords, I encourage you to go check them out. They have a Bandcamp, they have a Reverb Nation, they have a Tumblr where you can download the For Gas and Vinyl EP. They're also on Facebook, and it's SROS Lords .Reverb Nation or what have you. It's SROS Lords. Just search them up. And that's what you're gonna find. I will also be leaving links in the episode description of this podcast so that you can know exactly where to reach them and say, hey, I came to you by the recommendation of Lovely. Wow, you guys are amazing. And this is not me giving you a script. That is hopefully exactly what you would say, because I cannot hype these guys up enough. So, with that in mind, until next time, guys, you stay brutal. This is going to be a fun time we will all have in the name of heavy music.